but you'll still be able to see what we're talking about. All right, gang, we're gonna go ahead and get rolling. And number one, I wanna start off by saying thank you to all of you. We haven't had a live webinar with more than, I would say, 150, I think, or 160 registrants as our all-time high. Now, this wasn't with like FAI, we had 500 people on, and SCW, we've had 1,000. That's because of their channel. So just us, we had 235 before we went on, and I'm just overwhelmed by that. So thank you so much. We have more people kind of filing on, joining us here live. This is super, super cool. It's been very special to have so many people want to be on here with us and to share with all this information. Definitely had a challenging week with a lot of stuff going on. And so having such great support from all of you, I really appreciate it. So thank you. I love and appreciate you. And thank you for the time. As we go through this is not, if this is your first webinar with me or one of your first, this is not a webinar to tease you on a couple of little things that we do and then be like, here's all the stuff from us you can buy. I am definitely going to talk about TOA Select, which is our service outside of these webinars where you can use all these tools. And we would love it if you come over and join us. You have CEUs, there's literally 300 hours worth of content recorded there, our certification, that everything is all in there. I will refer to that. But you're going to leave today with a 8-week program with 6 of my favorite exercises, with a very good strategy, with volume controls, reps, sets, tempos, all of that in there. You're going to leave with really good stuff, okay? But I will tell you, if you want greater detail, further detail, then heading over to TOA Select and getting more from us there is definitely available. You can also check out our YouTube if you haven't been over there as well. All right, team, so let's dive into this. A lot of the research, I always like to show this just so you can see where we get a pretty good amount of our information from. But this one details sarcopenia, what it is, like all the way down to the letter. This is probably, I don't know, 14 or 15 pages. The first 6 goes into like all the super detailed anatomy of exactly what is going on, where it's not just atrophy, but you're losing muscle mass to a point where you cannot do what you did before. You used to be able to pick up 20 pounds, now you can't. You used to stand up tall and be able to reach your arms to 180 degrees, and now you can't. You used to be able to walk at a 3 mile an hour tempo, and now you can't. Your gait used to be 2.8 feet, and now it's 2.4. Like all of these are examples of a sarcopenic effect, which means not just atrophy, your muscles are shrinking because you haven't used them in a while, but long term. It's now to a point where it's not that it's not recoverable, but it's really, really difficult to. And we used to think of this, I mean, community of fitness, and then I'll say like medical research and such, used to think of it as like a 60 and over disease or issue actually in the beginning. 2016 officially declared sarcopenia as a disease. And now it can be diagnosed and treated and covered via insurance, which is also a big help in our direction, where people can, in certain states, be prescribed either physical therapy or personal training and have some of their healthcare costs taken care of. So since 2016, we've been able to look at this and go, hey, this isn't just a older, frail disease. This is affecting people as low as into their 30s or that are living sedentary lifestyles. Like there have been some research studies that showed 14, 15, 16-year-old kids that are having sarcopenia because they literally just sit and play video games and eat, video games and eat, school, video games, eat. Like they don't do anything but sit. And so they are having sarcopenic effects, okay? So this is our sarcopenia screen. This is already in the post email, or did they get this ahead of time? Did this come out yet, or is this the one that comes 10 minutes after? Okay, so 10 minutes after, once the recording is done and all that too, it's already programmed to come to you all. You'll get this in a PDF. Please use it, enjoy it. Feedback, anything that you want to give us as we go through, feel free to do that. This is the 3 sarcopenia tests that we do with clients. I'll tell you one place that's great to do this at, okay, with the proper tools. If you ever get into a fitness fair, okay, like here in Sacramento, there's one that comes to Cal Expo, our big convention center, every year. People are down there, 24-hour fitness, CalFit, Globo Gym, Planet Fitness, all these, they're all there, and then vendors that are selling equipment. Getting a table there and setting up and doing these 3 tests are a great way where walker buyers just stop and go, oh, I wonder if I have sarcopenia or not. And now, number one, we're educating them on what sarcopenia is, but within 10 minutes, they get, maybe even less, they get to actually know, do I have this or not? So just the grip strength test alone can actually do this for you. And I'll show you with the grip dynamometer. My beautiful assistant is going to be here to demonstrate her awesome grip strength here in just a moment. So you'll be able to go through that and show them. What I like to do is with a new client, I'll get 2 of these forms and I'll fill out both of them, but one I keep and one they get. And I like them to do and like put this on the refrigerator kind of a thing at home or in front of their office. So they can kind of see this, refer to it. Friends will see it, be like, oh, I wonder if I have that. Look where you scored. Here's my age bracket, etc. So we're going to give you a sarcopenic screen full body via grip dynamometer, okay, grip strength test. And then I've cited, and one of the articles is in the, no, not in the email, but I can add that in there too. One of the articles in there, make a note for me, please, and we'll add that in there, is the article that discusses how the grip strength is kind of a precursor for all-cause mortality and or improved quality of life, okay? So right hand, left hand, give them up to 3 attempts on each one, or until they just stop improving. Sometimes people just need to kind of get loosened up, warmed up a little bit. After that, we'll do a sit to stand test, 30 seconds, sit to stand. We have adjustable heights there that we can go through. And then the last one is probably the one that's, I guess, most interpretable for, if that's a word, for technique. And that is a chest pass where they're seated and they're going to throw a med ball, jam ball, sand ball, something like that. Now, we'll give people a couple of attempts on this because there is a technique to throwing where they don't just line drive it every time, and you got to get them to get a little parabola, if you will, a little up and over. So that might be the one where it's like if they're not good at this, it won't give you a good score. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we go through this and we go, I've got a full body assessment, if you will, sarcopenia via the grip strength, okay, based on our research. Not mine personally, industry-wide research, and then a lower body test and an upper body test. Now, the lower body can be looked at as strength / muscular endurance, okay, upwards of 30 seconds. You're out of that anaerobic phase, and we're kind of getting into that 5-6 seconds power burst. We're over that into the 30 seconds, but it's not long-term endurance either. It's kind of that sweet spot. And then the upper body is still strength. It takes muscle to power and throw the sandball, but you also get a power component too. So we're kind of threading the line between a couple of different things here and actually getting more than just 3 results. We're seeing power, we're seeing strength, we're seeing stability, we're seeing some coordination, we're seeing cognition, and if they're understanding and processing this whole thing while we go through it. And we've got a pretty good idea across the board via 3, fairly quick assessments here, what we're dealing with, okay? So let's break each one of these down. Now, again, you're getting the PDFs for all this. So don't feel like you have to write all this stuff down and then come back to us, this and that. Say one more time. It was sent out at 8 o'clock. Okay, I thought it was sent out ahead of time. I thought that's what you were saying. All right, so let's take a look at this here. So what we have is a grip dynamometer. Now, there's a couple of them, and the one we're kind of looking at this company called VALD, V-A-L-D or V-O-L-D? V-A-L-D, where they have like a really, really, really nice one. It's like, a couple $1,000s. It can be used for all kinds of stuff because the value to that, it does like a couple hundred different tests. We're looking into getting one of those, but this guy is about 30 or 40 bucks, okay? It's plastic, okay? It's not the highest quality, but it'll get the job done. They have nicer ones that are made out of metal that will cost, $200, $250, very, very accurate. Whatever it is that you want to use, get something that you can use that will bring consistency to a score. Maybe not be exactly right, okay? But it'll bring consistency and show from this point to that point, we've improved, we didn't improve, something like that. So there's your basic one, okay? Grip dynamometer, you can get that off of Amazon or wherever you want there. Very simple to use. You hit the on button and that guy will pop on. It's going to ask an age. You can, up arrow, down arrow, 29. And then it'll ask you, do you want it in kilos or in pounds? Okay, America, I guess we're gonna go with our pounds. I like kilos, but we'll go into our pounds since that's what our assessment is on. And then the way that this kind of process is done, ideally what we ask people to do is we have them hold, yeah, Keegan, come out here. We're gonna have them hold it out in front of them. We're not squeezing yet, okay? And then a 3, 2, 1, go. They bring it down to their side. They squeeze, 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 3, 4 seconds maybe. And then they stop and they show me the score, okay? And we're gonna do that multiple times. Now, what we don't want them to do, and we see cheats. I had a gentleman in here just the other day. This guy had an amazing squeeze. I mean, he squeezed like 130 pounds of pressure, which at 65 years old was like 50 pounds above, super strong. This guy could just crush apples with his hands, like amazingly strong contractor. But he squeezed like a 160, and I'm like, that can't be right. And so what happened was he pressed his thumb against his thigh, and crushed in on it, and you can recruit more pressure that way. So it's got to be, you know, a couple inches from the side. And then we want them to get a good squeeze, try not to deviate too much. And what we've found is the harder they try, the worse it gets, to be honest. So if you've tried this at home, they're like grunt and squeeze and yell, and it's like 54. And then the first one, they get a 60 because they're just kind of relaxed and they just give it a good crush. All right, so client, are you ready? Hold up in front, 3, 2, 1, down and squeeze, 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 relax. And then I look, 90.6. Holy cow, that's an improvement. Pressure, social pressure. Here we go. Here we go. Back up. Ready and go. Attempt number 2. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Relax. 92.0. Still improving. Social facilitation. Everybody, let's go. Keegan. 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 Go.
Waiting for
Crush
this moment.
it. Good. And 93.6. I would keep going with a regular client, okay? But she's not regular. She's irregular. 93. So let's go back over to our chart here and see how she did. Female, bottom chart, 39, and she squeezed, what was it, 90, say it again?
43 over.
What?
It was 93.
93, okay.
Oh,
yeah, so 93, yep, and that's in pounds. This is our kilos, so she was at 46 kilos. Oh no, I'm sorry, this is in pounds. So she was in 30 to 39, right in there. She just turned 39. So she's right here, the greater than 71, she crushed it. She's an excellent grip strength for her right hand, okay? Now, the tricky left hand. Let's see what old Lefty has to say about this. All right, Lefty, Keegan, Keegan, crush it, crush it, crush it, relax. 84, womp, womp. No, that's still stellar, right? That's still over. One more try, ready, crush it, crush it, crush it. And relax, 82, see? Try harder, didn't get as good of a result. Just kidding.
That's what you wanted.
Yes, that's what I was hoping for, just to give a little demo. That does happen often. Like, you'll have people that are, and they're crushing, they're screaming, and it's less than what they had the first time. That's okay. All right, so we'll write in our results here, okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we circle it. I will throw a circle on this paper, circle here, left hand, and then circle here, right hand, etc. She'd be in the same one for both. And so we give you the example of the little black one there on the left, the dynamometer. This is the Vald, the grip strength guy here in the middle. This one's pretty fancy. I can't tell you a good, bad, otherwise. I haven't got this yet. I'm just still in the research phase, but this little device can do all kinds of stuff. So that's where it's of interest to me. It does more than just grip strength. What I'm really curious about, just to go on a quick rant about this, is that grip strengther, right? You can hook that guy to the rack and then put a handle on one end, and you can pull, and it'll tell you how much you're pulling, right? Like, imagine that, like the tow trucks, and they test the belts, and they like pull it, and eventually when it breaks, the thing goes, oh, that was 25,000 pounds of pressure, right? So we can do that. So there's some research that discusses independent leg cross-sectional strength, meaning if you grab onto something with your right hand and you lift your right foot up, and I pull from left foot to right hand, that'll give me a number of how stable I am cross-sectionally from my left foot to my right hand, which is my contralateral gait. And then I could do the other side as well. And ultimately, I could get a score that would show me when I'm gait striding contralateral, my right foot forward of 100 pounds, whatever it is, and then 80 on the other one. And that could give me my screen of this is the weaker side of my gait and the weaker stability side that I have. Maybe that gait is smaller because of it. I'm less stable because of it. If I train more ipsilaterally to this side for 4 or 6 weeks and then come back and test at 95 to 100, now I've reduced that gap, right? So that's why I'm looking at something like this device where I'm like, ooh, I could get more out of this. Now they've got a little thing on there that you can test your rotator cuff and hip stability, all these other things. But the grip strength and that one, I don't know what that test is called, like what you would call that. But those two things are super, super interesting to me, and having such a like super sensitive device that can measure that, I'm like, okay, we could go somewhere with this. So stay tuned, okay? Stay tuned on that one. All right, so there's grip strength. By the way, if you have any questions, please fire away. The Q&A is open. For some reason, the chat is disabled. I apologize for that, but just throw them in the Q&As. And I will, if whatever comes up is like pertinent to that moment, I'll try to answer it. But if not, I'll just save them till the end. Okay, I've got nowhere to be. We're here for a while this morning, so happy to stay and answer questions. All right, so our next one, the sit to stand test. So this guy, there's a couple of parameters that kind of go with this, where people can kind of cheat. Okay, and that cheat is The sit down component, we ask them to completely unload, which means take a seat, let the box take your weight. A lot of times they'll just kind of touch their butt and go, okay? So not ideal. I want them to completely unload. We need the musculature to like shut off, light switch off, not dimmer down and up. I need it to shut off and then re-engage, okay? So I'm gonna show you a trick that though makes their score less, it makes sure that it's an accurate score, okay? And then the other one is they don't stand up all the way. And so we're going to time this 3, 2, 1, go. You have 30 seconds to get as many complete sit downs to complete stand ups as you can at whatever height, box, or chair that we are comfortable using. Now, I did put a little reminder on there that when you're doing this, to make sure that you're next to your client, or if you're in like one of these fair situations, you don't know who's in front of you. You don't know who this person is, if they're stable, unstable, if they're going to hold their breath for 15 seconds and black out. Point is stand right next to them just in case, okay, while they're doing this. All right, so here's the cheat, okay? I'm going to stand halfway up, or not halfway, but just kind of stop like a 10% short, and then touch my butt, go. Touch my butt, go. And so I'm, oh yeah, 7, 8, 9, and you're like, no, okay, stop. All right, so if you try that again and they keep doing that, which it's not like I'm going to beat the score and I'm going to try to trick you. They're just trying hard, and that's fine, right? That's fine. But what I'll ask them to do is every time you sit down, lift your feet up, okay? So I'll say, sit down, you have to lift your feet up. You have to lift your feet up. And if you have to lift your feet every time, it's gonna slow you down, but it's also gonna let me know for sure that you are having a full sit down. And I'll just say, like, for the first 5, lift your feet up, so I know you're sitting down all the way, and then they'll get it, okay? Because I don't wanna have to keep going, resetting them every time because they're cheating. I need to get an accurate score. And so we kind of explain like this, it doesn't help me if you cheat this and you get a high score. It doesn't help me if you actually have sarcopenia and you cheated it. Like, just do it accurately, right? Do it to the best of your ability. Some people are ultra competitive and they want to blow the records out of the water, and it's like, that's fine, but I need an accurate reading, okay? And the other one is for them to completely stand up all the way. They'll stop about here and call that vertical. Say, hey man, you have to stand all the way up to the point where I can see your knees and your hips are in one line, okay? So I want this position here. Everything's one straight line. If anything, I'll say you have to reach your arms all the way over your head, and then you can come back down, lift your feet, reach your arms overhead, reach your feet, reach your arms overhead. And if we have to go to that. Most people won't. I'm just telling you, preparing you for what may come your way. Sorry about the yipping. Our dog Whiskey is very aggravated. What's up, buddy?
Water on me.
Peyton squirted water on you. Do you want to say hi to everybody that's on the webinar right now? Hi, everyone. I'm sorry you got water on you. Can you tell your sister to stop doing that? Thanks, bud. Sorry, guys. All right, we have a contractor here working on our bathroom. The dogs, they're having a water fight, and we're doing a webinar. So this is what happens home life at the Linkles on a Saturday. All right, so we have our clients, right? We're ready to go. We've established that an 18-inch box for me puts my hip and my knee at parallel, okay? This is kind of ideal testing. If I were 6'10", then it wouldn't be. My knees would probably be a little higher. I would want to lift this up to like 20 inches. How do we do that? 2-inch AirX pads, okay? You can bring those with you, put them on an 18-inch box, or even better, we get like a 12-inch box and build them up, okay, as you go. So you can adjust this height, find your 18-inch height where you're at parallel and you're ready to test. We know we have to lift the feet. If they're going to cheat, reach all the way overhead. If they're going to cheat, if not, stand all the way up, come back down, 30 seconds, 3, 2, 1, go. Stand up, sit down, unload. Stand up, sit down, unload. Other than that, what's that? Absolutely, come on in there.
For real?
Yep, our model is here. She's ready to go. She's going to give us her best effort.
Bad knee.
Now, let's say, yeah, you don't have to if you don't want to. Let's say this is Keegan's retest, okay? Let's say Keegan is exceptional. I want to retest her. Just as I showed you on one of the screens, you can use this as a performance test, put a vest on them. I'd rather them not hold on to weight. I'd rather it be like strapped around their body. So the vest is very good for this. That's something that you can do, or just performance here. If Keegan's 81 years old, I just met her in the mall, I don't want to put a vest on her. But if I've worked with her before, this is our second or third time going through, it's been a couple of months, I might say, hey, you scored off the charts last time. I still want to do this. Let's throw a little extra weight on you, okay? You want to do it or no? Totally your call.
Whatever you want me to do.
Okay, it's only 30 seconds. All right, we are not judging you. This is just, she didn't warm up, everybody. Okay, she got a little bit of a bum knee. All right, here we go. 30 seconds. 3, 2, 1, we go. Nice and tall, unloads, okay? As she's going here, I'm gonna ask her to stand a tiny bit taller when she comes up. There she goes. Just so we're not shortening the hip. That's 7, 8, okay. I guess I'm counting 9, and we're halfway at 10, so she's paced for 20. She's doing good. I'm a happy camper. She's looking good. Karen, you got to count for us, right? 5 seconds, hustle.
Add a few,
3,
Karen. Don't let me
2,
down.
1, and time. 18, I think. Somebody give us a good score. Throw one up there. At least 18 or 20, something like that. Anyhow, let's say 18 was our score. We pop back over here, and we're going to look at her. Notice our chart only starts at 60 because the stats, what we have, that's where they started at. They were using this test for older populations. So this 39-year-old, she's well above women. Anything younger than 60 should be at 12 or more. She crushed it. Now, other assessments that we're going to look at when we're doing this is how stable was she when she was doing that? Were there any concerns on my end to have to stand next to her? Did she look wobbly? Was she falling forward and back, staggering? Did we see her closing her eyes and weighing side to side? Those are all things that you'll definitely see with individuals, typically of the older variety that do not exercise. You'll see them huffing and puffing too by the time they get done. That could be a pretty heavy cardiovascular test for them if they put in a really big effort, okay? So I don't know. What was it?
The one about grip strength, making adjustments for different hand sizes?
No, I didn't. Okay, good question. Grip strength adjustments for hand sizes. So with these dynamometers, and kind of depends on the one that, which ones you have, these little guys, this grip here, you can rotate this little guy, this guy here in the middle, it'll spin and rotate. And what that's doing is adjusting how far up and down the handle is. So if I have a bigger grip with my fingers, I can move this higher or lower so my grip can get a little bit deeper in there. Ideally, the second knuckle, the second digit here, that's where you want the handle to be at. If it's around their fingertips, typically move it down a little so they can get their hand over the top. You want it to sit on that second digit there, okay, or the second knuckle, yeah, of your what are they? Your phalanges, yeah, the dancing phalanges. If you've ever watched Bones, you would get that reference. All right, moving on. Our next one is the chest pass. So same box height, okay, that we just did for the sit to stand. These jam balls, the ones you see here on the bottom left, they probably work best because they kind of splat when they hit the ground. They do roll a tiny bit, but not a whole lot. The sand bells, which we're going to demo here in a minute, are a little bit harder, I guess I would say, to throw because they're a little more flimsy. But either one works, in my opinion. Most people have done a medicine ball chest pass at some point. The true power test that we do, like in a college level sports performance environment for this, is seated on the floor with the feet out in the splits at like a 45-degree angle, and their back is against the wall. And so it's a pure upper body power. They don't get any momentum. They don't get to use their legs at all. With this demographic, number one, a lot of people will not be able to get up and down off the floor, let alone sit comfortably at 90 degrees, okay? So in this case, I want to just put them at whatever seating height that we saw they were comfortable doing the previous test at. Let's do that, okay? So we'll put them there. I've got my tape measure down, and this doesn't have to be super, super specific. I'm going to say within 6 inches. So if I throw and it lands at 6'3", I would just give it 6 foot. And then if I throw one and it hits 6'7", I'd go 6.5, right? So all the scoring on there. And this is the only one where there isn't a research article. This is more of an anecdotal. Like when you see these scores over the last 15-ish years that I've been doing this with my personal clients, that's our scoring range. And we indicated that on there. The grip strength has research. The sit to stand has research. This one does not. And I'm hoping at some point we'll be able to do this. At some point, someone will have a research study on this, okay? There is one for the youth, the one I was telling you, like the college level pro, where there is research for that, but not for this particular older adult seated one. So we're just gonna go by every 6 inches or so. Key, will you shag for me? If you don't know the world of throwing, shag means retrieve the implement that someone else just threw. Okay, thumbs go on the back. I am allowed to rock forward and rock back, and people watch my hips, they will want to stand up a little bit and use their legs. That is a cheat. You don't count that one. Now I'll show you the difference between my arms and then doing that, okay? So I'm seated, hands at my chest. I can rock back, rock forward, give it a good throw. It landed at 11 foot, okay? 11 foot. You do not throw this back to your clients. You walk it back and hand it to them. No one can catch one of these the first time. You're going to break fingers or noses, that kind of thing. Good job, coach. All right, so here's my second throw. What do I have to beat? 6.5. So I'm going to rock back a little, up and throw. Okay, what did I hit there? 14. All right, new record. Throw back, you're okay. Thank you, coach. Yes, I'm 100 years old. Thank you. All right, now, okay, I just hit 14. I gave it a pretty good effort. Now, watch when I use my hips. I hit the wall. Okay, so that was like 17 foot. That was just from me doing a little bit of leg oomph. So it's definitely a good cheat. Don't let their hips come up. Okay, and if anything, you can have them do this one. If they just can't get it, prop the feet out. Oh, and I hit the tape measure at 16 foot. Now I've done it. That's Keith's good tape measure too. Sorry, love.
Just so somebody what reality looks like here.
Okay. There's our score. All right, so the ladies are throwing a 6-pounder. The guys are throwing an 8-pounder. And that range, come on back here. That range is, indicated here about where you're going to find every 6 inches or so, okay, as you're kind of ascending up the age bracket. Starting around 9 foot for the women, very good. And then all the way down at about 96 foot or so is going to be still pretty powerful, pretty good. Now, you've got hand arthritis, neuropathy, elbow arthritis, carpal tunnel, shoulder impingement, all these other things that are going to affect performance of this upper body one. You do the best of what you got for your people. Questions?
Yes, okay.
Fire away.
From Melissa here. She's got one. It says, in the past webinar, you mentioned that you focus more on hamstring, glute strength, extension. I'm assuming that's what EX means, as opposed to quad extension. You mentioned something about weak hamstrings relative to quad strength being a risk factor for knee osteoarthritis and replacement. Did I understand that?
Yes. So the question is asking about quad extension versus hamstring strength, basically, and its lead into arthritis, osteoarthritis, etc. Basically, our over quad development and quad dominance that we have in life, because our sagittal world that lives in front of us and sagittal ascending steps that lives in this world, we don't do a lot of backwards walking and extension at the hip, okay? Actually pretty minimal. And even less than that, we don't do anything where we move lateral side to side unless you're like a speed skater, okay? So outside of that, we basically just quad dominate our world, and the knee will start to take quite a bit of damage because of that. With a lot of our clients, especially if they have knee damage already, we have a training strategy called the Timmerman approach. There's a webinar on our YouTube that's called the Timmerman approach. And it just discusses focusing the majority of your training on the posterior chain, especially via hip hinging, hamstring curls, reverse drags, etc., to just overemphasize hamstring, glute, adductor strength development to reduce that knee pain, which ultimately will allow them to do more performance like a split squat or a lunge or a deeper squat, etc.
Next question from either Bianca or Bianca, I can't pronounce the name.
Bianca
Some
Lee.
seniors need to push their hand on thighs or chair in order to stand up. How do we compare that on the chart, or do we just count it as a 0?
Yeah, so that's really common where people push their hands down on their thighs to get up and down. It means they can't get up from that height without assistance, and they're creating their own bench rest with their hands on their thighs. So you need to elevate the seat. So let's say I'm at 18 inches, okay? And every time I go to stand up, I'm pushing with my hands. I'm gonna put another 2-inch AirX pad there and make that 18-20 and just say, hey, you gotta hold your arms straight out in front of you. I would rather take a less score, because they're not in a bad way, but they are cheating, right, to use their hands. I need a true lower body performance test. The other negative to that is a lot of times when they put their hands on their thighs, that keeps their knees in alignment. So now they don't have their hands there. You're going to see the knees start to bow in, valgusly collapse, if you will. That's a cue you're going to have to give them, because you don't want them to get hurt during this, okay? Is, hey, push the knees out while you're doing this. Again, the performance will not be as good, but it's a true assessment at that point. So I'd go a little higher, give a little more cue, and work with what they show you.
Okay. Question from Cindy is a folding chair okay for the sit to stand, and chest press if at a health fair or something they don't have a box?
Yeah, so either bring your own box with you at a health fair, but if you are going to use a folding chair, make sure there's a sandbag behind it or it's against the wall, because the folding chairs, every time you sit down on them, they slack in, and then when you sit down, they slack out. What I mean by that is, like, they're designed to fold in and fold out, right? Sorry for the kids. So the chairs are designed to do this action. So whenever you sit down, they kind of press and then they fold back, and they press and they fold back. And when they do that, they like inch and inch and inch and inch, and they work their way across the floor. So if someone isn't paying attention to that, with every rep, the chair moves back a little half inch. Eventually, they're going to miss that chair and flip. So just make sure that thing's pushed against the wall, or there's a 60-pound sandbag behind it, keeping it in place. When we go and do stuff like this, we bring these boxes with us. We had Rogue ones before. We just bring boxes with us and make sure we have the right stuff. It's a lot more comfortable to sit on a padded box than it is, a metal chair. But if that's what you have to use, no worries. Okay. All right, and then our last question, the chest throw, will it matter whether the throw is directed upwards or opposed to straight forward? So ideally, when we talk about that parabola, right, if they just throw it straight out, they're not gonna get as maximum distance. But if I throw it too high, it's just gonna drop and teardrop. I want that kind of 39 to 45 degree angle. And that's very specific, but in the world of throwing, discus, hammer, shot put, 39 to 45 is the optimal takeoff flight for throwing an implement. So if I can project it at that, ideally it's gonna give me my maximum potential for a very good throw. That's where I'm saying you might take a few extra attempts with people at this to allow them to really kind of get the technique down. All right, team, so here is a little mock, if you will, female, 68 years old. As she did her test, she had a 53 on the right, a 47 on the left. Okay, so I showed the score up on there. Her sit to stand total was 11 on an 18-inch box. We showed her score there. Okay, and then we had a 8-foot chest pass. We showed her score for her age. She's out of rep just by 1. So more or less, this kind of gives me a little snapshot. Not bad. Grip strength was pretty solid across the board for both. Very good. Okay, or close to consistent. We're within, 6 pounds of pressure on each hand, so that's fine too. Anything beyond, I would say 7. Okay, if you're getting upwards of 7 to 10 pounds of difference in between, I wouldn't say it's a problem. I would just say that we're lacking, right? We need to try to bring up that other side. Some cases people go, well, I'm right-handed. Naturally, I'm going to be stronger on the right. Not necessarily. Sometimes because you're more dexterous with your right hand, you tend to hold and grip things more with your left. So some people will be stronger on the other side. So don't just naturally assume whichever hand they write with will be the stronger one. But ideally, we want them to be fairly consistent. I would say within 5 to 7 pounds would be acceptable and not notable. Like, hey, we got an issue to work on. The sit to stands, you're kind of getting that idea as well. Are they stable? Are they capable? How tired were they? I would just make some notes on that. And then the chest pass, I just want to see if it's comfortable for them to throw, if they're struggling, if it hurt, anything like that. If they go to throw it and they're like, oh, my shoulder, this kind of thing. Another thing to think about is you need a little liability release form right before they go. We have simple ones where it's like 4 boxes they initial and check off real quick. That's like, you're allowing us to do this, you're volunteering this. If they have a separated shoulder and they go in there and throw it, I'm not going to be liable, etc. Unfortunately, the world that we live in, you need to take all these precautions into account. All right, on the other side of this form is our regular strategy session. Now, in other videos, I go into detail on how we collect all this. I'm not going to today, but the important ones, we do a pulsometer, so we get to see what their O's are, oxygenation level, what their resting heart rate is. We do blood pressure, okay, so in this individual is 141/90, tiny bit high, right? Then our grip strength, there's our scores that we just had for a grip strength. A hinge and reach, we'll put a tape measure against the wall. Some of these are tested at shoulder height, others are tested at hip height. I prefer hip height, and what I mean by that is when you're doing the hip hinge and reach, with most older adults that have shoulder injuries, if the tape measure is level with my shoulder and I hinge, I have to reach up to try to get in line with that, and they can't reach up. Their shoulders hurt or they're impinged. So if the tape measure is level with my hip, I can hinge and reach and just keep my arm basically on my hip level. I'll take that. So both feet are level at 0 with the tape measure. I'm going to hinge and reach, and then I'd look and it's like 90 centimeters, and then 87 centimeters, and then 81 centimeters, something like that. And what that's telling me, as I talked about with that grip strength test earlier, and the contralateral is, does my left hamstring, left erector crossing to my right side allow my right shoulder to reach out further than my left, vice versa? These are all further assessments that will give us a little bit more information about their gait variation, where their strengths, their weaknesses are. Again, not a lot of time to dive into that right now, but that hinge and reach does tell us quite a bit. Now you can see the difference for this person from 87 to 79. Okay, we've got an 8 centimeter difference in there. That's pretty solid. And then with both, they actually did better. So that's definitely showing us that one side, 81 to 87, it's a 6 centimeter difference from hand to hand. And then they did decrease a little bit with both. So it's showing us that we have a right side hamstring tightness or right erector tightness that's not allowing the left side to hinge as well as the right one. From there, additional tests that we could also do in here. I have a 1-minute step test that I will do with people. And so here's a score. We got 42 step ups at a 12-inch step. So that's a very good performance. That's not one I gave you scores for. This is just some of the other ones that we'll do. And again, I don't do all these with everybody. It depends on the person in front of me, but I just wanted to show you some. There's our chest pass. Okay, so we got the 8-foot with the 6-pound. Then we have the timed up and go, the tug. So we're talking about a 10-foot out and back. They're going to stand up out of a chair, walk around the cone, come back, have a seat. We did that at an 18-inch box or chair height, and it took 4.3 seconds to do it. We have standards for that as well. If that's good or not, that's an okay score. That's pretty good. And then it's not pretty good. And then our sit to stand, 30 seconds. She did 11, okay, at the 18-inch. We'll also check off, can they get up and down off the floor? Did they need to put their hand on a chair? Could they get up and down? Did they get down and then they couldn't get back up and I had to help them, etc. So all of that, okay, is my pre-testing along with the whole interview. Your health screen, your health history, surgeries, your current routine, medications, blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff is our intake, right? And with that, I'm going to go, okay, we're going to take now an 8-week training program and try to build in weaknesses and try to level out. Our goal is to quote unquote seek muscular equality with our individuals as we train them. Now, you get somebody who's 68 years old and you're going to find asymmetries and imbalances all across them. Am I going to fix that in 8 weeks? No. But can I make some good improvements? Absolutely. Will we ever fully seek muscular equality? Like my left shoulder is exactly as strong as my right? Maybe, maybe not. More than likely not. But can we try? Absolutely. We'll have individuals with one weak hip and one really strong hip, and that reflects in their gait. And because their gait is so altered, their knees hurt, their feet hurt, their lower back hurts. So if I can improve their independent hip strength, work on their gait distance and ability to get up and down, and all of a sudden they start walking more level, let's say 2.5 feet per step, then their back doesn't hurt as much, their knees don't hurt as much, they enjoy walking a little more, so they walk more, and they wear a vest, so now their bone density gets the weight, they get stronger, they lose body fat. Like all of these things open up because of one thing that we kind of addressed, right? So this is a very big picture. I don't mean to get too far ahead of myself or give you too much to think about, but this is a very, very big picture of like, how can we do as much good as we can with these individuals in 8 weeks and then show them again with a post-test, here's where you've come to, right? Here's where you started, here's where you've come to. So without going into super, super great detail of what you're going to do every single day, again, that's what TOA Select goes to. And we go into that in great deep depth and detail, all the way to the point where if you're like, I don't know what workouts to do, I don't know what, we provide the workouts, okay? So that's something to think about. If you need more help with this, please talk to us afterwards. We're happy to point you in the right direction. I think you would love TOA Select. Anybody that's a current TOA Select member, if you want to throw in the chat there or in the Q&A what you think of it and how much you've enjoyed it or how much you value it or what you use it for, anything like that, any feedback at all, good or positive, whatever you got, we would love to hear it and have others, if they don't have it, kind of get an idea of what they're looking at. All right, so this is total volume, okay? And another term that kind of gets lost in our world is when we say volume, people typically think load. Volume is reps, sets, load, tempo, and recovery. It's all of that. That's all volume, okay? In particular, you're going to look at reps, sets, and load as your overall volume. So in this first kind of snapshot of week number 1, we've done our observation, our assessment, as us pros call it. To everybody else, we call it an observation. This first week of workouts are what we call sibling supersets. And by I mean siblings is our clients typically do 2 workouts a week. And those 2 workouts will be siblings opposite of each other, similar but different. We'll have a brother workout, a sister workout, okay? In one workout, we're doing cleans. The other one, we're doing snatches. And one, we're doing sit to stands. The next one, we're doing deadlifts. It's basically, and I'm going to show you all the primary movement patterns that we want to do every day. It's basically kind of the opposite actions or a agonist-antagonist approach. So every week, they kind of get a full body workout twice. We're covering every base and we're kind of working opposites, where one day we would push and press first, and the next day we would hinge and split first, right? So you're not always bench pressing first every time you go in there. The whole idea is to give variety, but always deliver the same consistent style of a full body workout. So with these siblings, and I'll go into a little more detail in a minute, whatever exercises we select, we're going to do sets of 8 for round 1, sets of 10 for round 2, sets of 12 for round 3. So there's your reps and sets. Load, as we'll talk about down here at the bottom, okay? 1 being, it's the easiest thing I've ever lifted, to 10 being, I literally could not do one more rep at that weight for whatever you've asked. Meaning if I asked for 10, they're like, 10, and they barely made it, okay? Could not do an 11th, could barely control putting down the 10th, that kind of a thing. That's our easy to extremely difficult. So for the first timer starting off, we're gonna start at like a 5. We want them to feel load and it's, you know, it's there, but not super difficult at all. And we'll start at a 5, set of 8, another 5 for a set of 10, another 5 for a set of 12. How do you know what a 5 is and 8 is? We'll talk about that in a few minutes, okay? As recovery goes, I just listed as needed, okay? Which means is it'd be fine to do a 30-second timer, but some people are so deconditioned at 30 seconds, they're not ready. They need more time. So I'll leave it to you, the professional, to say they need more time or they're good to go, let's hit it. Basically, do an exercise. When they're done, set it down, take a breath, go to the next one, select load, tell them what they're doing, have them take a deep breath. Any questions? Cool, let's go. That should be about 30 seconds, okay? That's a good tempo, I would say, 30 seconds in between. And then as far as lifting actual tempo goes, the way these numbers read, 2:1, that means 2 of the eccentric range of motion or the eccentric muscular contraction of the movement. So let's take a deadlift. Eccentric is bringing the weight down 2 seconds, standing up in 1 second, down for 2, up for 1. It doesn't matter which movement comes first for that exercise, okay? Like in bench press, eccentric is the first one coming down, but in a lat pull down, it's concentric is the first one, okay? The point is we list it as eccentric first, 2, concentric second, 1, and it's always like that. So some weeks, you'll notice week 3 and week 7, those are eccentric weeks. Our lifts are gonna be a little slower on the eccentric phase, okay? And that's it. Everything else is pretty much 2-to-1. That's a regular, what we call home base, 2-to-1 almost all the time on every lift. Is really, really good. If you're doing things that are more dynamic, like releases or swings or push presses, it'll be like a 1-to-1 or a less than 1-to-1. Again, that's a bit greater detail I want to go into today. Home base, 2-to-1, every 3 weeks, okay, week number 3, week number 7, eccentric weeks, we go a tiny bit slower. Eccentric training, let me give you my serious face. Eccentric training, okay, it works exceptionally well, which means people will get very sore from doing that. So if you're doing like RDLs and you're coming down 3, 2, 1, come up quick, 3, 2, 1, come up quick, and you're actually doing that tempo, people will be very sore, okay? So I warn you that it works really well. It can work like too well. You can't do eccentric training all the time, not with newbies, not with brand new folks. They need 6 months, if not more, of training. Even then, you would do like eccentric phases for a week or 2. Eccentric training is heavy damage. It's good damage, okay? It tears fiber really well and it gets people very strong, but it's also, you need more recovery time. It can produce a lot of DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, okay? And if you do it too much, you can go all the way into the rhabdomyalgia phase where damage is being occurred, not good damage, not good tearing, okay? So just be careful with the eccentrics, though they work exceptionally well and it really does do a great job for building muscle mass fairly quickly, creating good stability, etc. We don't want to damage people. All right, and then looking at load selection. How are we going to select load? We have 3 criteria that if I watch a client lift and they can do all 3, the load is appropriate, okay? So let's stick with deadlift and let's stick with our example of we're doing 10 reps. The first criteria is, number 1, can you do the 10 reps that I asked for? Okay, I know that's very simple, but that very matter of fact, I asked for 10, can you do 10? The answer is yes. Okay, we're a third of the way there. The next one, can you lift all 10 reps with perfect technique or near perfect technique? Now I'm gonna say near perfect because remember, I get a 75-year-old lady and she's like, I have sarcopenia, I have osteopenia, I have blah, 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 I need to get in shape. I'm not gonna correctively exercise her to death until every movement pattern is perfect and then start to progress her. At some point, we have to just accept This is the body we're working with. We need to train her with that. And the example with deadlifting, with a lot of clients, they will deadlift and they'll have this round thoracic spine, right? And that neck that's just stuck. So when they turn to look at you, I'm not fixing this, okay? But do I want them to die from osteoporosis, sarcopenia? No, right? I want them to, whatever we're working with, I'm not going to fix this posture, okay? I don't care how long I have them, from 75 to 100, I can make it better, but it's still gonna be there. So do we not load that posture? No. The research says there's more benefit in loading them in properly. If they're stuck like that, there's more benefit in loading them there than trying to correctively exercise them out of that, okay? And I think the criteria, don't quote me, I'll look at the research article, I'll see if I can put it in there too. I think it's like 68 to 70, 65 to 70 was the criteria. Like, if you get them to this age and you're seeing, and they had a list of like certain criteria of, you know, the forward head, the lordotic curve, the tucked tailbone, the neck that's kind of frozen. So when they do try to look at you, like everything has to move at once, you're not going to fix that in 25 years. Okay. So just train them for the best benefit they can. Even though this is not perfect deadlifting technique, there's more benefit in me lifting that individual like that than sitting here doing no monies and retracted rows and trying to fix their posture. Deadlift them. They need the benefit of the deadlift, okay? So when I say with near perfect technique, that's what I mean. If it's as best as they're gonna do, then do it. Clients have stenosis. Clients have, what is it? Scoliosis, excuse me, scoliosis, thank you. Scoliosis, they have the round, you know, the lordotic curve in the back. They have the frozen neck. Those kinds of things we're gonna have to deal with. And if they're stuck like that, especially scoliosis, we're not gonna be able to fix that, okay? We can't personally. So train them the best they can. As long as we're not doing damage, it's not hurting them, not having flare-ups, train, load, do the best you can with what they are presenting you with, okay? So can you do 10? Can you do it with as near perfect technique as I want? And can you do the lifting tempo I asked for? That's the key to this whole thing. That's the big missing tempo that everybody forgets about. It's, here's my kettlebell, I'm gonna pick it up, we want 2 to 1, right, is our tempo. So even though my technique's not perfect, I can come up in 1, down, 1, 2. I come up 1, down, 1, 2. And then by the 8th rep, I'm like 1, 2, 3, down and 1, right? 1, 2, 3, down and 1. I'm no longer doing the tempo you asked for, it's too heavy. Go lighter. If they're like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, it's too light. Go heavier. You got to get the tempo. You have to have the tempo. If I'm going to judge a lift, which is our job, that is our job, to look at this lift and go, you can do this or you can't, okay? We don't hope lift. Hopefully they can do this, okay? We don't do that, okay? We know lift, K-N-O-W. I know you can lift this because I've seen you do these tempos and I've seen you do this to the point where it's pretty easy. My perception is you're not bright red, your eyes aren't glazing over, you didn't almost black out, that was way too heavy, to the point where it's like boom, 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 you're not even breathing heavy, that was way too light. I have found this happy medium where this is a challenging load for 10. You did the 10, the technique was as near perfect as I asked you to do, and you had that tempo all the way through and it didn't look exhaustingly difficult. Let's go a little heavier then, okay? Because if I can maximize those 3 judgments, as far as I can tell you, as close to guaranteeing you a lift without damage, that's it, okay? If you hit those 3 criteria, I can't guarantee you won't hurt people. By damage, that's what I mean, an injury. I can't guarantee you won't hurt them, but that's as close to getting to guaranteeing you as I can, that if you do those 3 criteria, 95% of the time, they're gonna be fine, okay? So when we're kind of looking at the value of where am I gonna select this load? Where do I find this load to be the most appropriate? Those are the 3 criteria. Those are the ones we're really emphasizing as we gotta get our lift in, okay? Why do I have these little smiley faces on the siblings? Weeks 1 and 2, weeks 5 and 6, those supersetted weeks of sibling lifts, those are lifting weeks where we're introducing new, where we're creating good challenge, where we're moving things along. The eccentric lifts, we're gonna focus on slower tempo, causing more good damage, quote unquote. And then our hurt weeks, high intensity resistance training, 4 and 8, sets go to 20, reps go, or weight goes down low. We're working more higher tempo, more cardiovascular. That's our week to allow people to recover a little bit, if you will, from the stress of the joint of heavier load, but they're still getting a difficult workout in, okay? So 2 weeks of kind of introduction, good lifting, 1 really hard week of eccentric, and then a active recovery week of higher conditioning with lighter load. Your body will recover from heavy lifting loads when you have a week where you don't lift a heavy load, okay? And I know that sounds very simple. It doesn't mean you take the week off. It just means we're gonna cut the weight in half, if not more. Do sets of 20, work cardiovascular tempos, okay? But my body will be like, we're not lifting anything heavy. So when I come back the next week and I'm like, cool, let's load up again, the body will feel recovered and I didn't have to take a week off, okay? Our clients, we find, will typically create their own rest times. They'll go on vacation a couple times a year, they'll have holidays, etc. I don't need to program in recovery periods. All right, I'm running short on time. I'm way behind. Your 3 must-have components: hinges, rows, carries. I will tell you those 3 need to be in every single workout you do, okay? Now, you can do 2 dumbbells in hand while you do step-ups for a minute. I would count that as a carry as well, okay? Because you're engaging a load, holding it while performing something else. You're challenging the grip strength. You have the core. It's all in there. There's definitely something to be said for locomotion, meaning that I'm moving across space, up and down hills, in and out of plyo boxes or machines, whatever it is. But I need, and I would encourage you to include in every workout for sure, hinges and rows. Carries are extremely important, especially with the older pop. And then your additional components are any kind of split stance and then push or pressing movements. Doesn't mean that additional is like you don't have to do them all the time. I would try to, but those 3 up top are the most important. With our little pillar here, we want to have something that successfully trains stability daily, that helps in transfers, moving weight from one side of the room to the other, or from a high to low, or something along those lines, that challenges grip and then teaches them to move quickly. And you can implement those 4 kind of pillared aspects into any of these other lifts. Meaning I'm doing step-ups, holding a weight in my hand for a minute, there's my grip, okay? Maybe the weight is uneven, there's my stability. I have a 20-pounder in one hand and a 15 in the other. There's stability work. When I was picking up and carrying a sandbag, I got to pick it up, throw it, go get it, carry it across the room, pick it up, throw it. There's a power component, right? And my transfer, because I was moving it opposite every time I threw it. So in little as 2 lifts, I could cover all 4 of those, okay? Kind of my aspect here. Now, I wanted to give you some lifts and some progressions. Now, we go into obviously much greater detail on this in TOA Select, but in those 3 movements that we're going to include every single day, the hinge complex, the row and or pull, and then our carries and or split stance kind of work here. Those 3, this is our teaching order for our kind of elementary or basic lifts, okay?
Sorry, just real quick.
Yeah.
There's a question on integrating the carry with mobility challenged clients. So I know you were just talking about the carry. I wanted to interrupt.
Yeah, let me come back to that at the end. Remind me.
Yep.
All right, so exercise 1, this could literally be your first workout, is to have them do a band assisted or body weight RDL or hinge. Okay, I'm not going to teach you all these today, but I just want to show you. This could be your first workout. Okay, as our first week asked for 8, 10, 12, we're going to do 8 band assisted hinges. We're going to do 8 band and or pulley supinated rows. Okay, palms up from a high anchor, always high anchors to start. And we're going to do a loaded suitcase carry, 5 pounds, 10 pounds in one hand. And that could literally be our first workout. 8, 8, and then 10 meters or 8 steps or whatever you want to do for the carry, and then come back, switch hands, do it again. Next round, 10, 10, 10, 12, 12, 12. There's our first little complex, okay? Then the next workout, we could do band assisted and or body weight sit to stands, right? Assuming they did well with the hinges. We could do a band or pulley straight arm pull down, again from a high anchor, assuming they did well with the supinated rows. And then we could do a band or body weight or a stick or a loaded, again, all this is up to you, the coach, gate step or a drop step lunge, something along those lines. And you could continue to progress across these to where your client might be a number 5 on the hinge, they might be exercise 4 on the row, and they might be 5 on the split stance. So you could literally use this as like a teaching progression where you're merging them difficulty by difficulty up that row, right? That's kind of the idea behind this is I want to give you something that's like, here's where you start, here's the next and the next and the next. Those could be workouts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If they do great the whole way, do it. If not, maybe they're better at hinging and they're not so good at rowing, then we'll stay at number 3 on the row until they really get good at it, okay? And then you can progress. I will tell you that for most people, they'll progress all 6 of these all the way across the board pretty efficiently, okay? I am gonna review all these very, very quickly. I intended to have a little more time, but I think I went a little long on some of my other areas there. So Let's dive into these very, very quickly. We'll talk about the loaded sit to stand, the kickstand, and the deadlift, and then I'll pop back. We'll go in and out of these real quick, and then we'll talk about some questions, Q&As, and such at the end. Okay, could you reel that in for me, babe? Just so it's out of the way. All right, so the sit to stand, and then we'll kickstand, and then we'll do a traditional deadlift. Now you saw on there what we called take it, leave it. I think this is one of the best ways with brand new clients to implement in a way for them to practice taking load, practice the movement, but not have to have the load every time. So you're gonna set your weight down. I love these sandbells because they're a little higher than kettlebells. They work great for this. I'm in my seated position. I'm comfortable here. My weight's right in between the arches of my foot. Now, what we call advance to the weight. If you're an Olympic lifter, you'll know that. It means stay over the bar, don't lean back, okay? Advance to the weight. I can grab my implement and I'm just gonna drive from here, chest up, sternum up. I'm gonna drive up. I can come back down, leave the weight, I unload, and then I go without it. I come down, I take it, I come down, I leave it. I come down, I take it, I leave it. So every other rep, they're practicing with load, without. This is a great opportunity to engage the musculature, practice the right, proper positions, but give them a little break every other rep so they're not always being taxed by the load. Because you might start to see the valgus or the shift or the collapse. On those body weight reps, cue all the right positions, let them progress from there, okay? Sit to stand, take it, leave it. And then just traditional means I'm just gonna keep it the whole time. Every time I touch down, I'm gonna keep it and go right back up again, okay? Lighter toes, heavier mid-heel, mid-foot, and try to keep them from rocking forward and back. You want them to stay advanced to the weight. All right, from there, we're gonna go to a kickstand. The best way we've been teaching the kickstand is this. Both feet square, okay? And they're right next to each other, standing even position. We have them put their hands on their knees. The knees don't move, just the foot kickstands back out of the way. And then I'm gonna slide my hand down and move the weight to where my foot was, okay? So now I'm in the proper kickstand position. Down, take it, down, leave it, down, take it, down, leave it, etc. And then eventually traditional, where I'm just gonna touch every time as I come down there. I know I'm going quick, but I wanna get through all these, okay? So one more time, my toes are even. Don't move the knees, kickstand the foot out of the way, slide your hand down, bring the weight back to where your foot was. Now I'm ready, see my knees are level. Down, I got it, come up tall. These kickstands, this is one of the biggest ones that broke through with my dad and helped him get out of this little wobbly small step where we started doing these small little kickstands. It really made him challenge his hip hinging ability where he could pick things up more appropriately, okay? And then we're on to a regular deadlift. Step to the straddle position. I'm literally right over the implement, down, take it, down, leave it, and then eventually just keep it the whole time, contact every rep, okay? That's a pretty good progression. Sit to stand, kickstand, full deadlift. I'm kind of building a progression with clients that gets them pretty strong at multiple different heights. Okay, they get to practice from the seated position, and we will challenge that. Different heights, different foot positions, gets them in and out of cars, in and out of booths, that kind of thing, okay? Then from there, going to the kickstand, staggering the feet, okay? Both positions, ipsilateral, contralateral, working different angles there, and then taking the load from the floor. You can even take them lower, right? And like start to get either different implements that are a little lower or start to elevate their feet and let them start working at different heights, okay? All right, after that, I think we went to single arm pull starts, loaded single arm hinged row, and the tank. Let's crank through those three really quick. Okay, this is, what's up? You good? Okay. And core system, now they call it anchor, but I feel like everybody gets screwed up on what that is because there's anchor training systems out there already. A-N-C-O-R-E, and core, anchor is what they say. This is basically a mobile flywheel. I love this thing, okay? I love this thing. I didn't think I was going to in the beginning. I wanted to get a flywheel. If you don't know what that is, it's like a device that when you create momentum, that momentum gets wheeled back. So you have to get concentric, eccentric, concentric, eccentric, and it's like kind of working both ways. They're very expensive devices, but this guy's basically a spring-loaded flywheel. So when you pull it, it's trying to rip back just as hard as you pull against these. I love these, and they're mobile. You're able to just kind of Velcro it onto a bench or a box. I hook it onto the tank. It hooks up anywhere on the squat racks. You can get units that like bolt onto the wall and you can just slide them up and down, okay? So the pull start is probably my favorite pull for my clients because of this stagger contralateral stance. So I'm going to go palm down. Okay, I've got my angle 90 grip here, arthritic grip. I'm going to kickstand or stagger stance my left foot back. And now watch my shoulders. I allow for rotation. Okay, palm down, slow motion. I'm going to turn my shoulders, a little thoracic rotation here to start. As I start to row and pull my elbow back, I'm going to start to supinate, 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 and I'm going to finish by touching my pinky to my rib, okay, all the way in on the row. I'm going to allow for good eccentric controlled return, pull, let it out, slow, pull, let it out, slow. Now, why do we call it a pull start? Imagine this is a big lawnmower, and I'm going to pull start, let it out, slow, pull start, let it out, slow. That whole idea is, can I yank, pull, heave something really, really fast, and then control the tempo of the tension pulling me back, okay? A pulley will be 20 pounds up and then controlling the 20 pounds down. That's not exactly trying to yank out, it's just the gravity control. This is trying to yank out of your hands, right? That's kind of the beauty of this and why I like it so much. And then we'll start to add like a drop step pull and then return to standing, drop step pull and return to standing. Then we can do that ipsilateral, right? So now I don't have my counterweight, just to show you the progressions, right? And again, I go into all this and select. Sorry to keep plugging it, but if you want more, go over there, okay? Go check it out. All right, the hinged row, and then we'll get on the tank and we'll call it a day. The hinged row, same exact kickstand setup. Feet are even, touch my knees, kick the foot, slide the weight back. My left forearm goes on my left thigh. I'm gonna grab the weight with my right hand, and I'm gonna row up and return. Okay, you can kick this back a little bit more if your implement's a little bigger, just so it doesn't hit you. Okay, we call this a Gardner row, we call it a kickstand row, a hinged row, whatever you want to call it. You are your own bench rest, your own support. Why is this so valuable? When I'm working in the yard, when I'm going to get anything off the ground, I don't have a bench or a box to put my other hand on. We always want 3 points of contact if we're trying to support our back and pull something off the floor. So we teach this proper hinge, anchor, row, and return, okay? These implements, again, are so great for this, and you can just kind of toss them, right? People love throwing them at the end. All right, then last one, and this is our split stance one. Tanks, sleds, whatever you want. This guy in particular, and again, I don't have a financial connection to any of these people, okay? I've been offered them, but we do not accept them. I just plug pieces of equipment that I like because they work. The other ones, we have a whole shed full of them that don't work. We don't talk about those, okay? So any sled will work, but the tank is what I love the most. This is a magnetic tensioned sled, which means there's no belt, right? And for this one anyway, if you get the M4, the big one there is, but not in this one, 2 magnets that create the tension on the front wheel. And it's basically a loaded walker. It won't shift side to side. If you have like a lawn boy or a regular prowler, if I lean left, it'll pivot and just slide that way and I'll fall down. But with this guy, it can only go forward. So if I'm pushing and I lean to the left, it's not going to go anywhere. I am, but the sled doesn't, okay? That's why I like this so much. The key to the sled work is not taking small, choppy little steps for our clients who already do that. It's teaching them, if we're going to use a loaded walker, what's the point of the walker? To help support them while they work on a gait. This is an athletic gait. So I don't want little choppy steps. I want to extend at the hip, extend at the hip, extend at the hip. I want to teach them this position, this athletic, right? That pump, like back in the day when you used to do these guys, right? When we were on the track team and we're like working on that uphill sprint technique of extending through your hips. When do we ever do that? Unless they're sprinting up hills, which my 80-year-old dad is not, right? That's the only time. This is how I can get them to work on getting out of this gait, right? The little old man waddle, right? And feel secure enough to start doing more. Why do they waddle? Because they can't do this. They're not strong enough. They're not stable enough. The only way they can is if they have something to give them the support. And then we encourage them drive, 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 drive as they push. And they can build the strength into doing that proper cross-sectional gait variation step at a bigger, longer range than they could do on their own, okay? Great device. Any sled will work, but this one in particular, don't really have to worry about your client falling or tipping over. I love this thing. Why I discuss it and suggest it to all of you is because I can vouch for it because we use it in-house. It's such a good piece. We've trained, okay? I showed you my 6 favorite exercises. We've trained for 8 weeks. You have all your volumes, your reps, your sets, your loads, your tempos. All the other exercises, I gave you the 6 each to progress as you go along. It's up to you now to kind of select which ones your clients can handle. If you want to progress them a little more, a little heavier, okay? It would be easier if I saw the exact client to say, here's what to do and when, but I'm talking to a bunch of different people. I'm giving you as best I can. After the 8 weeks, we're going to retest everything and we're going to see what they have to offer in terms of where did we start, where did we finish, how did they do, where are our weak areas, where did we seek muscular quality, where did we fill the gap at, where are we still lacking, how successful were they, etc. Okay. From that point on, you're able to repeat this cycle again if you want, or you work into a 12-week cycle or an 18-week, whatever it is, right? You can kind of go from there. But this is a great way to get somebody started, show them 2, really hard months of training and what success can be handled, and let them feel successful. It's great to look at a score sheet when you're done and go, my left hand grip strength went from 47 to 51 and from 54 to 60, right? I've still got that big gap in there, but they both improved. So the training is working. My step count went from whatever it was, 30 to 38. My chest pass increased a foot. Like all of that, they can go, oh, here's tangible. It's not a bikini photo, right? Here's my scores of 8 weeks of hard work. They can see, number one, was this worth it? Absolutely. And am I making progress? Am I improving? But they can also see on that chart, boy, I got a long ways to go, or I'm leading the way, right? I'm in the top 5 or 10% of my demographic. That's the whole idea of this, is letting people know, number one, maybe you're not in the best shape that you think you are, right? And then which areas you're lacking in. If you are in great shape and you are kicking ass and you are crushing it, let's keep that ability. If not, find some areas maybe you're weak at and round you out a little bit more. But at some point, like, you are kind of strong enough, capable enough, able enough. We just don't want to lose it. We don't want to go backwards, unless they're an athlete, unless there's a sport of something that we're talking about. So I think that covers pretty much everything here in the window. Okay, I know we went over as usual, shocker. I'm happy to answer some questions. I think there are a couple on there. I'll have Keeg read them out to me, but one more time, here's my contact info, robertlinkle@gmail. Check us out at Robert Linkle on YouTube. And then if you have any other questions about our training program, how we implement this, we go into depth, our full TOA certificate program, our 300 exercise library, tons of content from the last 4 years. We literally have 300, 400 videos on there. I'm talking thousands of hours worth of content on there. Our sandbag certification, our TOA Apex, the whole program I do with my dad, all of this stuff, TOA minis, all of it is included, all in Select. Plus you have CEUs. It's a year-long program because you're going to need probably 12 months to get through it all. It sounds like a lot. It is, but don't be overwhelmed. It's a really, really good program. All right. Thank you. Those of you who have to go, thank you all so much for being here. I love and appreciate all of you. Questions, we're ready to fire away, and we'll stay as long as we need.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to go back to, I just wanted to point out, Kate put up when you asked about that she can highly recommend TOA Select. I'm a 63-year-old and been in fitness for 40 years. I can honestly say I've never had so much fun delivering TOA content and programming to my clients, and they are loving it too. It's also made my own workouts fun again, plus I'm really noticing the difference in my own body, which I
That's
thought was
awesome.
really
There you go,
great.
Kate. Thank you, Kate.
And then Patricia had asked of the integrating the carry with mobility challenged clients.
Okay, so the carry with mobility challenge clients, meaning, I'm assuming you mean like they can't locomote, like they can't walk back and forth. The isometric version of this is doable, okay? And I'll give you kind of an example of it. It's basically overloading one side while the other side is not loaded in a semi-stable position. So let's say I have a client who can't walk back and forth very well or just can't do it at all. I can give them a weight in one hand and then have them stand shoulder width apart, and their other hand's like on a countertop or a handle just to give them stability. And when they're ready, I start the timer when they let go. And it's just an isometric hold from here, okay? Now from this position, I can have them stagger their feet. I could have them near inline their feet. I could have them inline their feet. I could have them close one eye, what we call pirate style, and then we could go blind where they have both eyes shut, okay? All of these work on stability, strength, contralateral or ipsilateral strength if I switch my feet, right? All of that will kind of give me everything that I get from the loaded carry without the actual locomotion component of transferring the load from one side to the other. Hopefully through split stance variations, right? Like drop step, return type lifts, calf pumps, dorsiflexors, adductors, hip stability, hopefully through that. And what I just showed you, kind of merging those together, eventually they'll be able to start taking some steps. And you see the videos of my dad where he'll do like a single arm pickup, 1, 2, 3, put it down, and then he turns around, right? And he uses his other hand pickup, 1, 2, 3, brings it back to the middle. Like it doesn't have to be 50 meters. It could be 6 feet, right? And they just practice going back and forth. So you don't have to over fatigue them, exhaust them, that kind of thing. Like you could basically just kind of take them through a little mini carry and still work on all the benefits of that. And those are great. Like that was a hinge, that was a pickup, that was a transfer, that was an overload, that was a balance, that was a stability, that was a coordination, that was a cognition instruction, right? Pick it up in the middle, carry it to the outside, bring it back to the middle, then I turn around, then I pick up with my other hand and I go back. They have to remember all that. So that was like 8 things in one exercise. You know what I mean? That's where we can get a lot of value from just a couple of little things if we really implement them correctly.
Hey, from Stephanie, how do you gauge the starting load they will lift? Is this taken over a week during the familiarization phase of the program based on the 3 criteria you mentioned, or do you also have some estimation from the assessments earlier?
So that's a great question. How do you select the loads? I basically, the safest answer is start with 5 pounds or 2.5 pounds on everything and just slowly start building up. I know if you're like deadlifting, I'm going to start with 2.5. So like we would start with the smallest kettlebell, okay, which is like, where is it? Where am I going? This way. So that guy right there is 4 kilos, and then 6 kilos, and then 8 kilos, and then 12. And I would sacrifice one set with the 4 and be like, okay, that was easy. Then do the 6, then do the 8. When I got to the 12, I'm like, okay, like now we're kind of finding like a little bit of a challenge. That looked like they started to feel it a little bit. And now moving forward, I can go, okay, we're going to warm up with the 8, grab the 12. That's our training load for today, day 2. So I would just, a process of elimination, light to introduce it. But if they're like a stellar individual and they come like bouncing into the gym and they're like, I'm ready to go, and they're really spry and they can move well, and you went through the assessment and they're like, they crushed it. Yeah, and then grab a 8 or a 12 and start there. You don't have to baby step too much. I would just basically kind of like sacrifice a day to build them up to see exactly where these loads should be. From that point on, you're good to go. That way you don't risk anything just assuming. That's what you don't want to do. I assume you can pick up this 20. You look very fit. And then 4 reps in, they blow up their back, or they just can't do it. And you're like, let's go to a 16. They can't do that either. Let's go to the 12. Now they feel super defeated, right? So just start light and move up.
The sled looks great, but what is an option?
Say that one more time.
Like the sled looks amazing.
Oh, the sled. Okay.
Yeah, like that's fantastic. But
yes,
what's an option to the sled if we don't have it?
So for dragging, there are alternatives. To pushing, there really aren't any, unfortunately. I know the sleds are expensive. This guy's like $800. The lawn boys are $500. Prowlers are a couple hundred, and you need all the plates, so they're probably $400 or $500. The pushing component of it, I don't have an answer for you. As far as the dragging component, okay? So like if I were going to, I didn't get to show you guys this one. Get over there, old Bessie. Okay, holding on to this guy. And this is one of the most valuable things, especially your clients with ACL knee injuries, is we'll have our clients start with like 2 or 3 minutes of dragging like this. That drag, you can do a simulated version of that with bands, okay? So you can take your just regular bands here and plug these guys in. Where'd my bracket go? I can plug these guys in on just a base bracket on a rack, and I can hold on and simulate my backwards drag, and then eccentrically control going back, and then drag, eccentrically coming back in. So I can still get that value. The difference is harder, hardest, and then I have to come back, right? So the load is constantly varied, where this is always the same load. And I can go distances across the basketball court, across the gym, that kind of a thing. So the drag variations, there are some good ones. The other ones, pushing, not much. I mean, I've seen some facilities that have like bigger walkers, the ones that have the chairs built into them, and they'll stack plates on that. So it's heavy, and then they can push the walker. I can't say that's super safe, but it's kind of the idea. Well, they're like designed as like chairs, right? And so it works. Like it basically, you could put a person in there and they can sit on it and then be pushed. I mean, that's what it's designed to do. Yeah, they have brakes and stuff. But I mean, that's about the best thing I could say. But someone looked at this and said, let's create this sports performance thing. And I looked at it, I'm like, loaded walker. Like that's the first thing I saw. And I went, oh, dude, like this studio would not look at a device and go, let's spend $800 on one thing. This is a good investment if it wasn't like super beneficial. I call it the missing link. Yeah, it was like the thing where I'm like, I can't get these people to improve their gait if I don't have a way to stabilize them while they train that gait, right? Like they don't take bigger steps because they're not capable. So how, I can't just say take bigger steps, they'll fall over. They're not able to do it or else they'd be doing it. So how can I get them to do that? I need like a loaded device that will allow them to be stable and push their way across. This is it, you know? So when I go to Torque and I'm like, this is great for older people, they're like, that's not what we designed it for. And I'm like, I don't care. You guys, you accidentally made something awesome here. And same with Angles 90. They didn't know they built the perfect arthritic grip for hands, but they did. Ancor didn't know they created this great flywheel for older adults that have progressive range of motion tension, especially with shoulder work, but they did. Like, that's why I'm attracted to these pieces of equipment, because they work so efficiently for specific purposes, right? Anyway, I'll stop ranting. Kind of gives you an idea. Keegan's like, wrap this shit up. Next question. What do we got?
Next question is from Jonathan, and he asks, do programs come with Select?
Select has, so regular Select has like 8 programs that maybe more, that I give you that are specific to limitation. So I'm like, let's build a program for a client with a shoulder injury. And I spend 20 minutes building the whole, you see me type it all in and I build it and I talk it out. And now you have a program for a client with a shoulder issue, a lower back, knee surgery, overweight, back, shoulder blade, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's 8 of those in there. And then we have a bunch of different programs specific to different training outcomes, meaning like I want to work with a vest, I want to learn how to ruck, I want to go for hikes, I want to get better at tennis. So there are programs built in there, but not like here are 2 workouts every week for you to do for a month, not like that. That is TOA Select plus programming, where we do give you that, okay? And it is extra, but you get a pretty good value for that. We give you like minimum 12 workouts, so at least 2 to 3 every week. And then there are menus and there are mobilities and there's all kinds of other good stuff that we plug in there. And it's like another $50 a month, I think, is what we plug on that. But you get a lot of value with it. There's video dialogue. It's me teaching you how to do each one of those workouts. And you have the printout and you have the library that goes with all those movements. So it's all right there for you to learn how to do. It's really good. And it progresses off the same 8-week program we do in-house. It's the same thing you guys, I program for you. So you're literally doing the same workouts we're doing, which is pretty cool.
Okay, Coach Lisa.
Yes. Coach Lisa?
Yeah.
Lisa B?
Yeah.
What's up, Coach?
If no sled to push, what about a towel or band anchored behind and a person walks out or drives out? Thinks from Churchill.
So band around the hips or towel around the hips and I'm sitting back and they're driving forward. Yes, you're putting your life in somebody else's hands, right? So come up, Keeg. Okay. Like if I,
thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, if I'm, let me get my NT band for this. This will be a good example for this. Like if I'm going to trust Keegan, if she's going to trust me.
I don't trust me to you.
Okay.
I'm driving it.
Yeah, if I'm going to hold her here and I'm like, okay, 83-year-old Keeg who doesn't walk very well, yeah, start marching forward, and I let her go, or she's just not stable enough to like maintain her own body and takes a tumble, I can't correct her and like pull her back from the band. That's where having something like this is so valuable. I would say for like a gait drill, like just walk, okay? Like a gait drill of this kind of thing, I would feel stable with this, but I would probably give her hiking sticks too. Right?
The
so
difference is too, I was like in the feeling of it, with the prowler and the push, here I feel like I'm much more quad dominant.
Yeah, you're like inertia based too. Yeah.
Versus there, I'm much more.
You have to drive and push.
Glute and all of this is activating with this stretch versus driving off the front.
Yeah. And then they have another one called Frankensteiners, grab with your hands. We've like seen this front? Before, yeah, out in front. And so they do kind of like, knuckles forward like Superman. Right? And then lean forward and walk. Like they kind of do that. So then you're kind of pushing too. Okay. Like that kind of works, right?
That's only if you have the arm strength.
Exactly. And that's a lot of our clients can't lock their arms out or they're not stable enough. So, I mean, if you're working with 40, 50-year-olds, I would probably say that's probably doable. I would get a belt and then hook like a toe strap to it. That would probably be the most efficient way. And belts, 30, 40 bucks, that kind of a thing. We used to have some really nice ones at Sac State that had breakaways, and we would do those sprint drills where they would resist, 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 and then the partner would break away and they'd sprint, and you got like that overload feel. Those belts are great. They're so comfortable, that kind of a thing. I just did a video last night on belt squatting, and I talk about that iron bowl belt. That's a very good belt for this kind of stuff. Very comfortable, easy in and out, 3 different attachment points, $40. So I would look into some belts if you're going to implement that. But if this is a demographic you're working with on a regular basis, and this is somebody that you really want to help, I would save up and get the tank. Again, not to plug this, but they offer like a finance too, where you could pay like $70 a month for a year and you don't pay any interest. You just get the whole thing paid off. We've had a lot of our affiliates have done that and been able to afford it.
So I only have comments left,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to share one comment. Cindy says that the programming is awesome, that her clients love it, and that she also uses it for herself. So
Nice.
win-win.
Cindy, is that Cindy R?
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just me. I won't try it with anyone else. Thank you.
Yeah. Good for you, Lisa. And coming from like a collegiate sprint background, I would trust you to do that just fine. But like, I'm not going to take my grandma out there and I'm like, all right, Grammy, 3-point stance, ready, go, and that wouldn't go well. We'd be in the hospital pretty quick.
Because not only would she fall, but then you'd fall on her.
Yes. Yeah. There would be some more damage there. All right. Any other comments or questions? As a researcher studying the older populations, I find this webinar very valuable. Thank you, Sir Robert. Hey now, I've been knighted. Always great info. Hope to work with you in the chest press test validation. Ooh, cool. I need to find somebody that does research that could actually do this. I'm not a research guy. I just read it and implement it. So we've had a couple of times where I'm like, I think I could do this, and I get into the process and I'm like, I can't do this. Like way over my head. So I need someone that knows how to do this stuff and has access to folks that would be willing to do it. All right. Okay, gang. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for staying on an extra 22 minutes. I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned some good things. We'll get all the PDFs off to you. It's probably already been sent. So it's already been sent to you.
I'm working on one that I couldn't modify it. I'm working on one that has all of the links. So it'll have the presentation link, it'll have the recording link, but it's also going to have one for Anchor, Tank, Angles 90, the grip strength article,
perfect,
and the deadlift thing here. Because
that's why we bring her.
People that
I've asked about that.
Well, they always ask me, like, what about the equipment list?
Yeah.
So it's important to have
we'll get you all that stuff sent over. And we do have some discount codes and some things like that. But again, we don't make any money from this. They just give us codes and I get like free t-shirts in exchange for it. So I'm not a fan of making money off of other people's products. I just...
College track athlete at heart. Just give me free t-shirt.
Just give me a t-shirt, man. I'm good. Yeah, I like that. Some stickers and I'm good to go. All right, we will let you go. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. If there's anything that we can do for you, please reach out. Don't hesitate. And have a lovely weekend. Anything from the boss?
Thank you.
Good to go? All right. Thank you all so much. Take care, everybody. Thank you.